Welcome back to Brew and Boost, where we take one smart story from the morning brew and turn it into a fun, natural English lesson you can use right away.
And today's story is all about a weird little indie film that made a huge splash, Napoleon Dynamite.
Yep, but before we jump in, I've got a quick quiz for you, Jake.
Oh no, hit me with it.
What item from Napoleon Dynamite became a wildly popular piece of fan merchandise? A. Vote for Pedro t-shirt, Napoleon's chapstick. C. A llama figurine.
I want to say the chapstick because that scene cracks me up, but I'll lock in A. Final answer.
All right, we'll find out at the end if you're right. Now, let's get into today's dialogue. Two friends talking about how Napoleon Dynamite went from awkward to iconic.
So I finally watched Napoleon Dynamite last night. How did that movie become such a cult classic?
It totally rewrote the playbook on indie film marketing. Low budget, no big stars, and it still blew up.
Yeah, and the merch. I saw Vote for Pedro shirts everywhere back in the day. They really leaned into the weird.
Exactly. Instead of trying to appeal to everyone, they found their niche and owned it.
I read it started as a short film. Talk about a dark horse turning into a phenomenon.
For real. And the soundtrack's so random, but it just works.
Honestly, more movies should take risks like that instead of playing it safe.
Agreed. It's a perfect reminder that sometimes the quirkiest stuff ends up hitting hardest. Let's break down that conversation between Alex and Maya. Lots of fun language in there that's worth unpacking.
Alex starts by saying, "So I finally watched Napoleon Dynamite last night. How did that movie become such a cult classic?" He's using the phrase cult classic, which refers to something that didn't have mainstream success at first, but gained a passionate fan following over time. Movies like The Big Lebowski or Rocky Horror Picture Show are great examples too.
Then Maya replies, "It totally rewrote the playbook on indie film marketing. Low budget, no big stars, and it still blew up." That expression, rewrote the playbook, is one of today's key phrases. It means to completely change the usual way of doing something. And when she says it blew up, that's casual slang for becoming really popular, really fast. Also, indie film just means a movie made outside the big Hollywood system, often with a small budget.
Then Alex says, "Yeah, and the merch. I saw Vote for Pedro shirts everywhere back in the day. They really leaned into the weird." Merch is short for merchandise, things like shirts, mugs, or posters that fans buy. Vote for Pedro was one of the most famous lines from the movie, and it showed up on tons of t-shirts. When he says they leaned into the weird, that means they embraced how quirky and awkward the movie was, instead of trying to hide it. It became part of the movie's charm.
Maya replies, "Exactly. Instead of trying to appeal to everyone, they found their niche and owned it." To appeal to everyone means to try to make something that everyone will like, but that often leads to playing it too safe. Found their niche means they focused on a specific group of people, fans who love offbeat humor, and owned it means they were confident and authentic about it. No pretending.
Alex continues, "I read it started as a short film. Talk about a dark horse turning into a phenomenon." A short film is a film usually under 40 minutes, often used as a test or proof of concept. Then he says dark horse, which is one of our spotlight idioms. It describes someone or something that surprises everyone by succeeding against the odds. And turning into a phenomenon means it became wildly popular and talked about everywhere.
Then Maya says, "For real." And the soundtrack? So random, but it just works. For real is a very casual way to agree, like saying totally or seriously. She says the soundtrack was so random, meaning the music felt mismatched or unusual, but it just works is a phrase we use when something feels right, even if we can't explain why.
Alex adds, "Honestly, more movies should take risks like that instead of playing it safe." To take risks means to try something new or bold, even if it might fail. And playing it safe means doing the usual, avoiding anything unexpected. This line really captures the heart of what made Napoleon Dynamite different.
Finally, Maya says, "Agreed." It's a perfect reminder that sometimes the quirkiest stuff ends up hitting hardest. Agreed just means she totally supports what Alex said. Quirkiest stuff means the weirdest or most offbeat ideas. And hitting hardest here means leaving the biggest emotional or cultural impact. So she's saying that strange, creative ideas often make the biggest impression.
That was packed with good stuff. These expressions are super handy if you want to talk about creativity, success, or what happens when something unexpected takes off.
Totally. Now that we've unpacked every line, let's listen to the full dialogue again, with fresh ears, and see how much more you catch this time.
So I finally watched Napoleon Dynamite last night. How did that movie become such a cult classic?
It totally rewrote the playbook on indie film marketing. Low budget, no big stars, and it still blew up.
Yeah, and the merch. I saw Vote for Pedro shirts everywhere back in the day. They really leaned into the weird.
Exactly. Instead of trying to appeal to everyone, they found their niche and owned it.
I read it started as a short film. Talk about a dark horse turning into a phenomenon.
For real. And the soundtrack's so random, but it just works.
Honestly, more movies should take risks like that instead of playing it safe.
Agreed. It's a perfect reminder that sometimes the quirkiest stuff ends up hitting hardest. Expression Spotlight. All right, now it's time for Expression Spotlight, where we zoom in on 5 useful phrases from today's dialogue.
First up, rewrite the playbook. This one's so good if you want to talk about innovation or doing things differently.
Right? Originally, a playbook is something sports teams use. It's a set of strategies or moves. So when someone rewrites the playbook, they're not just playing the game, they're changing the rules.
Like what Napoleon Dynamite did with indie film marketing. No famous actors, no big effects, super awkward style, but it still worked.
Here's another example. Tesla rewrote the playbook on car advertising by barely advertising at all.
Or that new restaurant in town rewrote the brunch playbook by making everything vegan and digital only.
If you're wondering about similar expressions, you might hear change the game or break the mold. They're not exactly the same, but they all show someone doing something new and bold.
Okay, next, lean into the weird. I love this one.
Me too. It's playful and super current. To lean into something means to embrace it fully. And the weird just means anything quirky, awkward, or unconventional.
So if someone leans into the weird, they're not trying to hide what makes them different. They're making it their brand.
Like that friend who wears socks with sandals and says, I know, I like it.
Or like a business that uses super odd ads on purpose. Think of Old Spice commercials. Totally leaned into the weird, and people loved it.
This is a fun one because you can customize it, like lean into the chaos, lean into the silence, lean into your strengths.
It's great for encouraging people to own who they are.
Number 3, find their niche. Super useful for anyone starting a business, a blog, or even just trying to stand out.
A niche is a small, specific part of a market or audience. So when someone finds their niche, they've figured out exactly who they serve best.
Right? It's like saying, don't try to please everyone, just find your people.
For example, that YouTuber found her niche making slow living videos for burnt-out city folks.
Or this skincare brand found its niche with products just for sensitive, acne-prone skin.
If you're looking for the opposite, it would be going broad or trying to appeal to the masses, but that often leads to bland results.
Yep, niche isn't just smaller, it can actually be stronger.
Number 4, dark horse. This one's got a cool vibe to it.
Totally. A dark horse is someone or something that no one expects to win, but then surprises everyone.
The term comes from horse racing, actually. A dark horse was a racer no one knew much about, but who might pull off a win.
It's often used for movies, musicians, athletes, anyone who flies under the radar and then boom, makes it big.
That startup was a dark horse in the AI space, but now they're leading the market.
Or she was the dark horse of the singing competition, quiet at first, but stole the finale.
It's the opposite of a front runner, which is someone everyone expects to win.
And last but not least, play it safe.
This one's super common. It means to avoid risk or stick with what's familiar.
And it often has a slightly negative tone, like maybe someone could have done something bolder, but they didn't.
They played it safe with another superhero sequel. Or, I didn't tell him how I felt. I just played it safe and said, have a nice day.
It's a phrase that comes up in dating, business, fashion, basically anywhere people make choices.
The opposite would be, take a chance or step out of your comfort zone.
So if you're always playing it safe, maybe it's time to lean into the weird. Just saying.
I love how all 5 of these expressions connect. They're all about risk, surprise, and owning your uniqueness.
Exactly. Whether you're making a movie or just posting on Instagram, these phrases help you describe bold moves and why they matter. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. But before we go, remember that quiz I gave you at the top of the show?
Oh yeah, you asked, what item from Napoleon Dynamite became a wildly popular piece of fan merchandise? I said, vote for Pedro t-shirt.
And you nailed it. That shirt was everywhere. A perfect example of how the film's weird charm turned into a cultural moment.
Yes, finally got one right. And honestly, this whole episode makes me want to rewatch the movie.
Same. It's such a great reminder that sometimes the strangest, smallest ideas can have the biggest impact.
If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to share it with a friend, leave a rating, or just use one of today's expressions in real life.
We'll be back next time with another smart, fun story to boost your English. Until then, stay curious, stay confident.
And don't be afraid to lean into the weird. See you next time on Brew and Boost.